Howdy guys, I am gonna give you a little update on my fish tank. This big boy, originally in this tank, which is cloudy because I was an idiot and forgot to turn the filter back on. This big guy was formerly in that tank. Since I moved him into this tank, has grown about 3 or 4 inches, so he's big now. He's coming up on around 9 or 10 inches long, so he's a big boy. Look at that, look at that. It's pretty. The Jack Dempsey tank's not quite warm enough for him yet. I did a water change yesterday and didn't get the exact temperatures right. All my fish are doing good. This one, this guy, who I have to sell, and these guys. So, anyway, what I'm here to update you on is the plants. Holy fuck, the plants. So, all of these, besides this really big one, these little guys, and this yellow pothos, all came from a plant my grandma gave me that was already 80 years old. It was a cutting of the pothos. So, I shoved, I think, 1 or 2 cuttings in this filter, and you can very distinctly see all the new growth. It's like ghost white for some reason. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this was the last leaf it put out. This one is diverted because I chopped it and put it here. So, one thing I've noticed is, I thought, oh man, if I'm gonna get this spot bushy, I'm gonna have to chop them up and plant them back in the tank several times, because I was under the misapprehension that pothos wasn't able to fork. That's something I heard somewhere. I thought that, oh, it's not able to fork out. But then, like, I really got thinking, okay, if this is such a prolific pest plant in other areas, then it has to have some sort of way to diverge or spread, because, like, waiting for an animal to stomp on you and break you seems awfully inefficient. Turns out, I was wrong. As you can see, maybe because I cut it, but I have other cuttings that have started these sprouts before I cut them. Since I cut it, it's getting another vine forking out. So, yeah, it's got another vine forking out at the bottom here. That's where this leaf's from. And it's growing. The part that the nodes I threw in the filter to grow are sprouting too, so yeah, I guess I just have some really happy pothos up here. I don't know what to tell you. So, this is some Epipremnum pinnatum, whatever you pronounce it as. It's an expensive plant. I spent $70 on it and almost killed it. And I was like, okay, let's throw this back on the fish tank, try and grow it in soil later. Maybe during the growing season. So, it's on here, and it is growing very well. It's putting out a lot of new leaves, and I'm hoping what I can do, once it grows more, is that I can cut some of this, prune some of this pothos back, and have more of this stuff. And I need to set up my other tanks with more plants, but I've only got so much pothos right now. I have so many, like, little stems sprouting that I'm waiting to grow more, so I have a big luscious viney thing of whatever that I can chop whenever I feel like it. I'm working on low pothos volumes. I was gifted this by a client. This is, you know, the last leaf where it was growing at her house. And then they just started climbing up in size. It's pretty crazy how fast it's growing. So it's very densely covered in foliage. The only downside I see is that it's a lot more difficult to access the filters. But, you know, it's also my fault for having 4 of them when I really only needed the FX6 and maybe an AquaClear 110. I also came up with a little rule of thumb for how to filter an aquarium. That rule is, for every, for whatever your tank size, you want to put 1 more 0 on the end, and that should be your kind of go-to number for how much filtration you need. Jack Dempsey's very territorial. He kind of takes that back area over there. This guy, he gets basically everywhere here up in the tank and a bunch of this stuff over here. This guy, he chills under the rocks, and the red-tailed shark, as you may have he just kind of goes wherever. Yeah, unless you have a smaller tank, add a 0 to the size of your tank, and that's how much filtration you want. This one you'd want 1800, but I'm almost doubling that. 500, 1000, 2000, 2900, so whatever, pretty good. So yeah, unless you have a really small tank where it's like a 10-gallon tank, you could use more than 100 gallons per hour depending on your stocking, but a good baseline is add an extra 0 and then consider your stocking options, because you might need more and you might need less depending on how much flow that fish can tolerate. Yeah, I feel so bad because like half the time I'm down here looking at fish, but the other half, oh, that was rude, excuse me. He don't care though. You can tell that did bother him. Fun fact, you can see that the front of his head is lighter because he didn't expect to get swooped like that. Yes, this is a 180-gallon tank. Having an Oscar and a Jack Dempsey is kind of pushing it. I'm still pretty sure he's defensive because of the water change. I did have to do like a 60% water change because I slacked off. But yeah. These plants, I'm pretty sure I can fairly safely get 2 weeks before I do my water changes, because if you look at these roots, the plant does not need this amount of roots in order to absorb water. What those massive amounts of forking tells me is that it's seeking nitrogen or fish poop. So that tells me that there isn't very much fish poop, or there isn't much nitrates, detritus, all that. It tells me that's well under control by how prolifically the roots on these plants are growing. Something that I should have seen as a sign to change my water is that this cutting that I took from a giant pothos plant that I shoved in here, it didn't grow roots for a very long time. But you may see I did a water change just yesterday and they forked out that much. It's a very fast growing plant. This one had no roots for a month and then boom, poof, all there. Yeah. Moral of the story, pothos forks out. Clean your filters, make sure they're appropriately sized for what you're stocking, and do your best to keep your fish happy and maintain them. Bye-bye.